All right, welcome everyone. Happy to have you here. We are in for an hour and 15 of sharing really on herbs for mind and mood. I'll be your host, Yarrow Willard. I'm a clinical herbalist and just really excited to be sharing on this topic. It's timely, it is winter, it is the season where we get sometimes the blues. So we're just going to really dive deep into a bunch of different herbs. I've got a PowerPoint ready for you. There is for those of you who are joining us live, there is a Q&A section. There's a chat. I won't be necessarily answering the chat, but you can ask questions in the Q&A. And we have Amanda, our lovely product educator at Harmonic Arts. She'll be there to answer questions in the chat and also forward things to me for me to answer live. So the other thing I will mention is that you're going to get a recording of this available to you. It's not going to come to you in an email, but it will be accessible through harmonicartslive.com, which is our sister website that has all of our live education at it. So I highly recommend you also browse harmonicartslive.com and check out some of the other things we've done. Over the years, we've produced a number of webinars with lots of great intel on herbs and connecting with plant medicine. So thanks for having me. Super appreciative of your time. I find that this is our most valuable resource, even in the evening times. So just spending a night with me to talk about herbs and really get some ideas on how we can use plant medicine to support our mental health, to support our emotional health during the winter is really, really awesome. And of course, as a herbalist, we're going to go into a few other things too. Like we're really going to talk about plants and crafting up our own elixirs for mind and mood. But we're also going to start off by really looking at some of the lifestyle things we may want to talk about to enhance that. The holistic spectrum is important to really think about our overall health. All right, so I've got a first off question for you. Just to make sure that the chat is working well and that you feel connected to the community, make sure you know where the chat box is and just light the chat up with hello. Let us know where you're coming from. Maybe let us know if you are drinking any tea, wine, mead, elixir, chai, whatever it is you're joining from. So wow, I'm seeing folks coming from all over already. So yes, and so this will be available, as I said, in the recording afterwards. So you can actually, at that point, you'll be able to pause any of the slides and you can take notes if you want. Highly recommend if you do find you got a notepad with you and you want to take notes, then definitely do so. But more, I'd rather have your attention into what we're talking about and just to tune in with this now. Okay. So herbs and mushrooms for mind and mood. Looks like we got folks coming from all over the place. I'm seeing from Amsterdam, from Montreal, from Burnaby, from everywhere. So welcome all of you. Yeah, lots and lots of folks joining us. So appreciate your time. Hope we get to learn a few things today. Okay. All right, so here we go. Tonight, we're going to talk really about, like, the first one is crafting up a beautiful beverage. Something that is a huge part of our story at Harmonic Arts is how do we make medicine accessible? How do we make it enjoyable? How do we make it something that we want to create a bit of a ritual or habit around? And so we're going to talk about crafting a mood altering or mood supporting, not mood altering, but I guess it is to a degree, elixir, in the sense that some of these herbs might support GABA or might support serotonin or might support melatonin or other antioxidants and anti-inflammatory effects in the brain. So we want to craft up a drink. That's one of the things we're going to share about. We're also going to share really high level on 10 herbs and mushrooms for balancing the mood, energy, and relaxation. Of course, being a herbalist, there's so many more that I want to share with you. We've tried to pare it down to 10, but literally we had like 30 herbs we'd love to share on the slides with you. But we just want to keep it really concise. I will mention a few other herbs and some that pair well with different herbs and some of the reasons that we might put herbs together in a blend, all those kind of things. And then we're also going to talk about adaptogens, nervines, and nootropics. These are the three kind of categories we're going to focus on tonight because there are three categories that can support our mind and mood and our energy. Of course, something that has become really clear to me So we're gonna, yeah, we will talk, well, we'll get there in a second. We'll talk about nourishing and regulating the adrenals, calming the central nervous system, revitalizing the mind, restoring mental clarity, restoring function to the vital organs. And what I was going to say is something that's become really clear to me when I put in the words Google, when I say herbs for, I see lots of, like, Google auto selects herbs for anxiety, herbs for depression, herbs for tension. This is something that in the modern world, we're seeing massive amounts of shift to priority of why people might look to find solutions. And not that I really think if you have a major challenge with anxiety or mood disorder or depression, it is really worth working with a practitioner. But psychiatry is not the only way to work with that. Finding community, we're going to talk a bit about that, different ways to support our mental health in general. A lot of us, I'm even doing this webinar in my sweatpants, right? A lot of us are at home pretty regularly. Of course, I got a nice up top, but yeah, in my sweatpants, upstairs in my bedroom, hanging out with you all. So just as a reality check is, a lot of us have been isolated for a long time. We spend a lot of time on screens. And so we end up really finding ourselves in new territory around our mental health. So we'll talk a bit about that, but really our focus tonight is going to be on herbs and how we can support that way. And just to kind of get us going, I want to mention a little bit about our company. In case you don't know Harmonic Arts, most of you do, give us a big shout out in the chat if you've got any of our products, if there's anything that's a favorite of yours, anything you like to enjoy, drink, tea, tincture, mushroom, whatever it is. But really, we started here on Vancouver Island in the unceded territory of the Comox First Nations, and that's where I am now. And this land was considered the land of plenty and still is considered that land of abundance. We were fueled, my partner and I, by just the potency of all the healing herbs and medicines around us to really bring some of that more to the world. We had this kind of initial mantra of bring the herbs and they will come. And really our kind of byline for the company has always been sharing the healing power of plant medicine. Another one has been deepening connection to plant medicine. These are all things that are really important to Harmonic Arts. We're founded by herbalists. We are really supportive as of this concept that business should be the change we want to see in the world. So we've been on this potent B Corp journey. We're about to become fully B Corp certified, which is really looking at all of our vendor supply, making sure that our staff are supported with good quality health and health programs, as well as fair living wages, making sure that our community who buys our products are well supported. So like a lot of those kind of initiatives have been really important to us. We've been doing a give back program for 1% for the Planet for a number of years now to the Cumberland Forest Society, and we've raised quite a lot of money to support our local second growth forest from being logged and cut down. This has been important to us. So these are the kind of things that I think are have been a big part of our story. But I think maybe the biggest strength and why Harmonic Arts has been so successful is not marketing. We haven't spent barely any money on marketing. We've really formulated potent, effective, easy to use herbal medicine that really is ethical and supports and aligns with our customers' values. And that has been our secret sauce over the years. People really align with the products we've created and want to share them far and wide. So I hope you're one of those. That's enough about us, though. Let's get into how I can support you today and add some value into your life. So really, winter season can have a big impact. And that's what we're doing this webinar here in February. February is, well, I hate to say it, but one of the reasons for Reading Week in university was actually also known as Suicide Prevention Week. February is the darkest kind of end of winter, drudging through. Some of us feel like we're in the slog of it all. Those of you who are in more eastern Canada, been in a lot of snow. Here on the West Coast, we are fortunate to have more rain than snow, but it's still a lot of clouds, a lot of inside time, a lot of isolation at this time of year. So yeah, there's something called SAD, which is seasonal affective disorder that really affects, 15% of Canadians supposedly, but I believe it's a lot more. When we say up to 25% experience the winter blues, yeah, a lot of us have mild SAD during this time of year. And I guess that's why when people retire, if they have enough money, a lot of them become snowbirds. A lot of Canadians go south just to like get away from the winter blues. I know my mom's partner for years, he could not handle Canada at all during the winter, and that became a huge part of his priorities at all times. And so, yeah, the winter blues can get us down, but there's a lot we can do. Like there's a lot that we can do to support our health that aren't just about herbs. So we'll start with that. But just know if you're feeling a little lower energy or lack of motivation or difficulty concentrating this time of year, you're not alone. This is something that's affecting us all as a population. And if you're finding that you don't want to be in some social situations, just not wanting to go out, or this might be seasonal affective disorder. Okay, so one of the things I would love to just kind of invite before we get into herbs is how many other ways we can support our mind and mood. I find, I mean, eating high quality food is just the most important first priority that I would suggest to anybody. Just like I know that you don't get like our salads and lettuces are not quite the same in the winter, but really trying to eat something of vibrant food, something we do at home is we actually get sprout seeds and we grow our own sprouts in the winter. And just the fact that we've got sprouts growing in the windowsill, even seeing them, it's like nice greenery in the windowsill when I'm doing dishes, but then also mowing them with my meals feels like this beautiful, vibrant food that I'm like part of the creation force with, right? It's similar to gardening, but it's super easy and low maintenance. Out here on the West Coast, I'm spoiled. Sometimes I get to harvest winter forest mushrooms, but it's beyond those kind of things. When you go grocery shopping, when you choose your meals, eat with vibrancy. Eat things with lots of color. All the colored foods have more antioxidants, which are anti-inflammatory and really help us with our mind and mood during the winter. So eat those antioxidant-rich foods. Also, something that I've found to be helpful for me and my family is we try to get more ethnic spices, more Thai spices and curries and just interesting foods from other places on the planet to make us feel like we're traveling or to have some exoticness in our diet, to really shift around our palate. That has been a massive one for supporting my mind and my mood. One, it gets me feeling creative because I've got to like, how am I going to pair these different spices or find different recipes? So eating and creating meal prep can be a really great way to support us during the winter. Not only does it support us up here in our brains and our hearts, it also can really enhance the health of our microbiome, which when we look back to the science and a lot of the data nowadays, we see that if our microbiome is feeling weak or has less diversity in it, it really does affect our mind and mood. If we've got a lot of candida in our system, it's going to affect our mind and mood. So just something to really consider as you go into how do I support myself during this time of year. Another big one for me has been a daily practice of movement. I walk a loop. It's just a really simple dog loop. I walk that every day, but I also will make sure, like for Christmas, I got myself a chin-up bar this year, or my wife got it for me actually, but I use it. So I do, and it's simple. Sometimes I just stretch on it, but just having that daily routine, I do sets of 10 multiple times, feels really good. Try to get your heart rate up during the winter. Go for a ski, go for a walk, do some kind of movement practice. Just even if it's like 20 minutes a day, the amount of like lymphatic tissues that are holding on to toxins that need to move in your body that get like drained through just a little physical movement can hugely have an effect on our mind and mood. So that is a massive piece of keeping healthy and keeping in good space in the winter. It also produces kind of endorphins and a bit of like energy in the body that can invigorate us and make us want to be more active. The more we're active, the more we want to be active. So that's a big one. Make sure you're getting enough rest. I think something I've seen in the last few years is the amount of people who have insomnia now and who are spending a lot of time late at night, maybe watching Netflix or doing a little whatever it might be. Maybe they're playing a game, or maybe they're listening into a podcast or Twitter Spaces, or there's all kinds of ways we can engage in the evening. Maybe it's just the social media platforms, but those can keep our brain really stimulated. So how do you tune down? Something to just think about. How do I tune down? And tonight I'm not wearing them, but often for these webinars at this time of night, I'll wear my red light glasses, because even this bright light and this type of energy can sometimes make me more alert. Now it's only 6 o'clock here, so I can, no problem. But when it starts to get to be 7, 8, 9, 10, what is your bedtime? I'm a night owl, so I've been trying to get to bed by midnight, but that might not be you. So what is the best way for you to get one full REM cycle, if not two, in the winter especially? In the summer, we can go way longer with less sleep, but in the winter, really important to kind of rest, take cat naps if you can, take some downtime during different periods of time. Consider this to be a seasonal hibernation season for many different creatures, and you're not any different. We might live in these techno bubbles of cities or urban environments that feel very different from animals, but from a circadian biorhythm perspective, we're not that different. We really should be slowing down in the winter. Okay, another one that I think has been a huge shift for a lot of people, myself included, massively during the winter has been, or it's actually since COVID, has been this call to community. And if we look back to SAD and seasonal affective disorder, we realize, yeah, call to community. Sometimes we don't want to feel like going out, or we don't want to do these things, but make sure you have one or two friends that are tracking you at all times. And the reason being is that it just helps us feel accountable to ourselves and others and connected, and just even having folks we can have conversations with. Super healthy, proactive way to really enhance our mood and support our mind. So have a couple of community members. I'm a huge fan, always have been. I do a lot of videos on YouTube around spending time in nature, around connecting with plants. So pairing that with a daily movement practice is a great win. Even if it's cold out, get outside. It's very easy these days for even commuters to literally go from a heated garage into a car, into another garage, into an office, and not even go outside. So if you do work in kind of some situation outside of your home, spend some time on your lunch break outside. After work, take a minute to just go outside. And even in the morning, if you can, get a little bit of fresh air. All right, just get outside once in a while, spend some time. Again, just these are simple things, but I just want to be here to remind you of other ways you can do to support your mental health during this time of year. Okay, all right, let's move on. We're going to talk about herbs. This is my jam. Love plant medicine. Have been ever since a kid. Just been in love with like working with plants. And hold on. Sorry, I have a little bit of a cough. I just got it in the last day or two. I'm feeling sad that I've got a little bit of sickness, but it's all good. It'll move through me. I've got a strong vitality, and I know my herbs. So I'm drinking an immunity right now, and I've been just working with that since yesterday. Just taking the extra rest, listening to my own advice around that stuff. So Chinese tonic herbalism is something that really gave language, at least also because has been brought now to Western world, has given a lot of language around tonics and adaptogens and herbs and around like things that tone us when we're already fairly healthy. And so there's kind of these two movements in herbalism. There's herbs for acute care and specific chronic conditions. That might be very specific herbs that are going to work in a single directional avenue that are going to support one way, right? If I'm getting sick, I want echinacea and golden seal and maybe that oil of oregano, or in my case, I'm a big fan of even having a tonic alongside, but also using things like osha root and ginger, um, garlic, and all those things. But like the reality is that that's just a single directional. I'm working for in an equation of A plus B equals C, or C result. It's very much more allopathic, very much more like Western medicine around, if I take this herb with this condition, I'll get this response. Whereas tonic herbalism and adaptogens and a lot of these types of herbs are maybe more what we call dual directional, or have a overall invigorating effect to the body. These herbs are many of our most common herbs. They're very safe for the most part. Most tonics have a modulating effect that slowly kind of build up and support and fortify the body. And therefore, they've been used for people who are already fairly vital, but just want to be healthier or have maybe something chronic that's been long going and they just need to like slowly repair the digestive system or inflammation. They're herbs. We're going to talk a bit about a few of these adaptogens and some different tonics, but that kind of concept of Chinese tonic herbalism can now also be appreciated in Western herbalism. And we look at Western herbs that have many of these qualities of tonics, herbs like elecampane for the lungs. Now, we're not doing a lung class tonight, but I know that for me, like that's a herb that really just supports and restores and builds up the energy, the chi, the vitality of the lungs. Very different from something that's just going to be used to stimulate mucus and get it out of the system, right? So we may want to look to tonics in general or herbs that have some of these tonic type qualities, even if they're not from TCM, that have a lot of support that way. Ayurvedic herbs are similar. Holy basil being a great one as an example. That's much more tonic. Reishi, Luthro. These are some of the main ones we will talk about today. But they have like that restorative quality for imbalances or deficiencies, right? This is where we want to go. They're usually safe for everyone, very little counterindications. Most of the time they can be consumed by young and old and weak people as well as healthy people. So there's no real safety issues there. And when I say young, I don't mean giving herbs to a 1-year-old. I mean like 3, 4 years old. Yeah, at that point. Also, a lot of the Chinese tonics and other tonics like that don't have many counterindications with pharmaceuticals, which is really helpful because there's definitely some herbs we're going to talk about tonight that could have counterindications if somebody's on SSRIs or antidepressants. Like St. John's wort is one as an example that we have to just be careful with those herbs based on whatever cocktail of pharmaceuticals people find themselves on at times. Okay, so or mocktail of herbs, not just because herbs interact with herbs too. All right, so I want to just start us off with, again, my favorite way to work with winter energy is to craft up an elixir in the winter. This is a way to help kick the coffee habit. Coffee's not bad. It's a great delivery system. It's wake up juice. It's get up and go, clarity, focus, but it has this like up spike and then down crash. And it kind of puts us in this peaks and valleys type of energy, which is jarring on the system over time and can make us a little bit bipolar in its own nature, just of like, okay, I'm caffeinated and then I crash, that kind of energy. So we've been for years really working with these elixirs, and that is to like craft up a drink that can be used similarly to coffee, but as like a morning ritual or an afternoon ritual, and has some of these restorative qualities. And to me, this is just a super easy win to start making elixirs in the winter because they can really help our mind and mood and get us into just a better ritual for nourishing ourselves properly. I can't tell you how many people I've met that are so good at nourishing others, but terrible at nourishing themselves. So an elixir can be kind of a nice way to like, oh yeah, I'm doing something good for myself. Yeah, people make all kinds of things like that for themselves, but this is one that I've found to be really easy and useful. We have 6 different elixirs, or I think 5 on the market right now, and they're what we usually do, or what I've always done, is I start with a tea base. So right now I've got my immunity. If I was making a winter immune elixir, I might put immunity in with like a 5 mushroom drinking chocolate, and then I'll whip that up. So I'll put the hot tea in to the blender with my elixir powders, and then I might add in my own superfoods if I want, or other powders like that. I might have some pine pollen at home and I want to invigorate myself, or some shilajit and get extra vitality that way, or I might want something to calm me down, right? And so I might add some lavender, or I might add some chamomile ground up powder, whatever that might be. And then I'll mix in some kind of fat. The fat's really important because it slows the absorption down and it binds and supports the fat soluble vitamins and minerals. Plus, If it's something like MCT oil or like a medium chain triglyceride or even butter, these kinds of fats help support our brain. We are fatheads. So in general, our brains burn a lot more fat. They're full of good quality oils. And so in order to get some of the herbs across the blood-brain barrier, MCT oil or a good nut milk or a good coconut oil or a good butter or ghee can be really useful. So we blend those in. We might also add in honey or other sweeteners of choice. If you're somebody who's really trying to watch your candida, you might go with a monk fruit sweetener or stevia. I personally prefer honey. It's like my luxury is honey. Sometimes I'll add maple syrup. It just depends. But I don't have a sweet tooth, so I'm not a dessert kind of guy. So having a little honey in my elixir feels in alignment for me. Anyway, so mix in a little honey, mix in a little MCT oil, blend that up with the herbal powders, and then maybe also add in as a sort of third step, finishing it off, either a couple of different spices or tincture blends that are more along the lines of your tonic herbs. So stress balancing tinctures, thought flow healing tinctures, mind and mood tinctures. And we're going to talk about a few of those tonight. So we'll go through this process again. We've also built out 3 different elixirs for you to just think about. We have a tea called Clarity. Clarity is kind of our thought enhancing tea to give us mental cognitive flow, to increase circulation in the brain. Really great tea. Mixing that with our matcha mind, and matcha being useful for clarity and focus, and our uplifted spirits, which is kind of our winter blues tincture. Those 3 together make an awesome mind and mood balancing elixir, and it tastes really great. This is a really great tasting elixir, even without any honey. But that's only my opinion. You got to try it for yourself. You might want to add honey. Anyway, that's a great one, one that we'd recommend. And we'll talk about some of the herbs that are in these blends and maybe why they have benefits over the time of our time together, as well as I'll say our Adapt is another one for stress and sleep that we've kind of crafted for you today, is to add in the adaptogen tea. It's an adapt tea with Luthro, schizandra, holy basil, reishi, ashwagandha, rhodiola, just a really great tea. This one can be made into a decoction. So that tea is something that we call it the double boil and trouble method, where you lightly simmer it and then you pour in more water and pour more water out. So I will brew this 3 to 4 times, but my favorite way is every time I take a cup of water out of my pot of adaptogen tea, I add a new cup of water in to soak with the herbs and just kind of go that way. Mixed with our 5 mushroom drinking chocolate and a little bit of extra reishi, because reishi is great for calming down the mind and insomnia and sleep. And then pairing that with our Feel Calm tincture, which is really an anti-anxiety, supportive sleep and restlessness, helping to calm nervous tension. Really, that's a great stress and sleep elixir. It's not going to make you super groggy, but it will really calm tension in the body. I guess if you drank the whole bottle of Feel Calm, you'd probably be a little bit groggy. Now, there is some valerian in there, so that can slow people down, but in most cases, that's not enough to really like make you groggy at the wheel or something like that. So just really, I've often even used this one when I'm feeling anxious and stressed. It might even be in a meeting. Like I've even like feeling overwhelmed because I have a little bit of ADD and there's like all these technical tasks. I'm like, oh my God, take a little Feel Calm. I can deal with this stuff. All right. So we're going to look at 3 major categories of herbs today, and those are adaptogens, nootropics, and nervines. These are all great categories of herbs. And to be clear, we've only got 10 herbs we're going to talk about. So 4 adaptogens, 3 nootropics, and 3 nervines. But the reality is that there are so many more herbs in these categories. And something that's great about at Harmonic Arts is we sell a lot of single tinctures. So if there's a nootropic you know of, or a nervine, or an adaptogen you're looking for, chances are we have it in a single tincture form that you could add into your elixir or start taking on your own, or it's in one of our blends. So yeah. Okay. So adaptogens really are mood boosting. Sorry. Adaptogens boost the mood, really provide a variety of levels of of supporting energy and supporting overall immunity and health. Many of those herbs are ones that I would be taking regularly, especially during the winter. Nootropics are really herbs that help to improve our brain function, our nervous function, and our cognitive focus. So these are herbs that are going to give us a bit more clarity, a bit more focus, and can really enhance that cognitive function, including things like memory and our ability to just concentrate over a period of time. There's a lot that can be very distracting in this world. And we've seen herbs like lion's mane, which is a nootropic, really pick up in sales and in public awareness because a lot of us are overwhelmed and distracted most of the time. And so working with nervine, both nervines and nootropics can really be supportive in that way. But nervines are really herbs that can help to encourage calming energy and sedating or anti-anxiety, anti-tension, to really have, some of them have more sedative effects, some have less, but in general, the concept with nervines is they support the nervous system, right? And so they can be blended with adaptogens or nootropics and combined together. I'm a big fan of nervines and nootropics. So having some cognitive enhancement while supporting the nervous system, I think that's just a really great way to go. And depending on the type of person you are, if you overthink or get anxiety, yeah, nervines are really supportive group of herbs. Things like skullcap, passion flower. We're going to talk about a few other ones in here, but yeah, there's lots of great nervines to support our overall well-being. So, oh, I've already got them listed a little bit here about the different types. So just pause on this slide if you want to check this out more in the recording. The herbs we're going to talk about today are ashwagandha, Luthro, reishi, Chugga. Nervines, we're going to talk about lemon balm, St. John's wort, and valerian. Nootropics, lion's mane, gotu kola, and matcha. Now, of course, like I said, there are many, many more to these categories, but to keep it simple, yeah, these are what we're going to focus on tonight. And this isn't a full-on herbal class. We've only got an hour and a half at the most together. So we're going to just kind of keep it to these ones. Also, to not overwhelm you, so you need your nervines. Like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed by all this stuff here, Sharon. I'm just kidding. So let's start with adaptogens. I like to make fun of myself if I can. And ashwagandha. Now, I love this herb. This is very popular now. Yeah, it wasn't as popular like 20, 30 years ago. When I first started working with herbal medicine, yeah, I guess like when I was younger, it wasn't as popular, but nowadays ashwagandha is one of the main herbs people know of. We see it in lots of blends, lots of formulas. It's in our golden milk elixir. It's in our adaptogen tea. It's one of those adaptogens that I'm finding much more prominently used in the Western world. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One of the big things to me about it is some of these energy tonic herbs are very stimulating, whereas ashwagandha has this mental clarifying quality. It calms down inflammation and calms down anxiety and tension and the mind. It's really good for relaxing and helping people get better restful sleep. So here's a great herb that has qualities that really support the overwhelm of our world. Plus, because everybody, not everybody, but the majority of people in the Western world, I guess I'll say the culture is really about like maximize it and crush it, instead of like get things done. People are really driven in the West world to get things done and to have like human optimization. That ashwagandha can give us stamina and can support us with energy. So it becomes a really functional adrenal herb to support both hormonal balance and just adrenal cortisol balance, right? So these things are super useful. It's one of those herbs that's quite safe to be used long term, so no problem there. It's a really rejuvenating. I do recommend, though, with any herb at all, doesn't matter what it is, that you always take breaks. 3 weeks on, 1 week off is a great strategy. But something like ashwagandha, you might take ashwagandha all through the winter and then take a couple of months off in the summer, or you might try to create an annual cycling with ashwagandha. And some of the tonics and adaptogens, you might do it more annually. Typically, I like to do my cycling in a lunar cycle, which is like 3 weeks on, 1 week off for a moon cycle. Or sometimes I'll suggest to people they do 5 days during the weekdays when they go to work and then take the weekends off just to kind of cycle and get a little break from these herbs. They function better in some ways if we're not just always doing them all the time. We take a break. Yeah, maybe it's a month, every 4 months, maybe it's a week every 3 weeks. Okay. So anyway, yeah, other things about ashwagandha is it pairs really well with nootropics and nervines and adaptogens. Like it just is a great pairing herb. Energetically, it's slightly cooling, and which is part of that calming inflammation effect that it has. But meaning that it also calms down, like in Chinese medicine, it would be like this upward rising qi. So it'd be this energy of like heat rising. It calms down, and heat rising translates into anxiety, overwhelm, tension, restlessness, anger, all these things that can come up for people. So calming that down makes ashwagandha a great herb that way. It's name in Sanskrit, ashwagandha. I was always So while I was taught in herb school, it means to be strong like horse, to be strong like horse. And I thought, yeah, to be strong like a horse, that's like awesome. And then I went and read it on Wikipedia and it says smells like horse. I just had to laugh because it does kind of have a bit of a strong smell. It's not the tastiest herb. It's not bad. It's far better than some herbs that have a lot of bitter notes. But yeah, it's one that if you're putting it into your elixir, you're getting ashwagandha powder, don't do a tablespoon of this stuff. It's strong. It'll really throw off the blend. I like to do smaller doses more frequently. But yeah, I would highly recommend ashwagandha powder in your tonic elixir, or ashwagandha, do our golden milk, or put it in the adaptogen tea, or get the ashwagandha tincture. It's one really worth working with and connecting with. Okay, and so in this case, with our elixirs we talked about, it's in the adapt tea. And there's loads. Just one more thing I'll mention is that, um, you can listen to experts like me, and I'm totally here for you and love to share this knowledge. Harmonic Arts has got great education, but also you are the master of your own health. And there's so much information around herbs like ashwagandha out there, lots of clinical trials, lots of studies done, lots of peer-reviewed and anecdotal evidence supporting this herb, that if it's something you feel drawn to from what I'm sharing, then I highly recommend you check it out yourself and do a little bit of your own research. So do your own research, DYOR concept. Yeah. Luthro is another one of my favorite herbs. Actually, I like Luthro almost better. Not that I'm supposed to have favorites, but Luthro is really neutral in flavor. I find that this is one of those herbs that's less appreciated than ashwagandha, but to me is like just the master adaptogen. It's really neutral in flavor. It's very modulating to the system. It really nourishes and regulates the adrenals. So it has a real affinity to support the adrenal system, but also balance overall like cardiovascular and endocrine and nervous system support. So I usually use Eleuthero as a master herb in some of my formulas. I really like it. It's one that I've played with lots over the years and just been a fan of. It's known as Eleutherococcus, but another name for this is Siberian ginseng. And you might have heard of it as Siberian ginseng. It's just that as things change over time, it's not politically correct to call it a ginseng because it's not a true ginseng. So calling it Siberian ginseng was became a bit of a misnomer because it's inaccuracy. Although it's in the Aralia family, which is the ginseng family, so it's related to ginseng very closely, similar to sarsaparilla, which is another great one that I love, and Devil's Club, which is another great one here on the West Coast that grows in that Aralia family. These potent herbs to support our adrenals and support our kind of cortisol and all this kind of stuff and regulate blood sugars and all that good stuff. But Luthro is one thing I like about it. Well, one of the biggest things is that neutral flavor that it has and its overall capacity as an adaptogen, and the fact that it's very sustainable and ethical to work with Eleuthero. Some of these herbs, they're not abundant. This is one that can be grown really easily, and there's a lot of abundancy for. So it's economical and it's sustainably just a great adaptogen to be choosing. I also find that this is one that pairs really well with other adaptogens. That's part of the reason that I'm a big fan of this one, is that it works as a chief in many of my formulas, or as a kind of the leader of the formula for a lot of what I like to blend. A lot of the blends. I've used this for menopause women as well as for prostate support, like for those, but then also for young athletes, and anybody who has low energy or adrenal overload. This is a great herb for them. Just a really solid one to put into your elixirs, to add into your blends. It's in our Adapt Tea. The Luthro as a tincture is also a great way to go. Okay, so I'm gonna just keep going because I'm recognizing our time, and I just love to share this stuff with you, but I like to get lost in time, and I want to honor your time. So reishi is another great herb that I just think is super awesome to work with. This is, I probably said this, and you may have heard this in other webinars, but I have a daughter named Reishi. She's 22 now, which shows you that I've been into Reishi for a long time. She's awesome. She's like a bit of my Reishi. She calms me down and makes me feel really connected. Actually, when I had her, it was that like recalling back to like center for me of like, what is priority? I was very young having my daughter. I was 20 myself. So reishi has got that quality as a medicine too, is it brings us into our center. Some of the bylines for this mushroom are to protect the academic from their own mind, to work as meditation in a bottle. So like grounding effects, really calming down anxiety and tension and insomnia and circular thinking. It's used for things like heart palpitations, which is often associated with anxiety. It's used for allergies and histamine response. But really, in the case of mind and mood, we're looking at how reishi can bring us back into our body when we're feeling out of body. And out of body can be as much as I'm thinking about a past event that affected me, or I'm worried about what's going to happen in the future, or I'm online scrolling through all these beautiful people and all their beautiful lives, and I wish my life was as beautiful as theirs, which is another story, that their life is not as beautiful as their Instagram. I'll let you know that. But the reality is that when we have these out of body experiences, reishi is just a great way to bring us back into our heart center and to really help focus that. It's grounding, and it's got those antimicrobial, anti-pathogenic qualities. And I think of that, I would almost translate even into like spiritual pathogens of like entity attachments, where you've got these concepts or ideas of how you should be that aren't really how you are. I find reishi can help ground some of that out of us, and help us kind of be more connected to who we really are. This one also has some really good liver and radiation protective qualities. And the reason we kind of added that in here is because one of the big things that's become kind of, I'll say, the elephant in the room that some people are talking about, but a lot of people aren't, is just how much time we spend in front of our screens, and the fact that that has a lot of EMFs. When we look at our cell phone, we look at radio frequencies going through our environment, the amount of radiation and EMF energy around us all the time. Some are way more sensitive to it than others are, but regardless of if you're sensitive to it or not, it's around you all the time, around me all the time. And I live in the country, and like, but the reality is, herbs like reishi help to protect us from some of the potential damage of this type of stuff. So again, one of those adaptogens that I would just recommend everybody have. In fact, I've said this before, but I think it's worth saying again, is that if you could put reishi into the water supply of every major city in the world, we would have a healthier, happier planet. That's just my thoughts. So yeah, secretly I'd be pouring reishi tinctures into the water supply for everybody if I could, because I just think it's that kind of herb that everyone could have benefit from. All right, let's talk about chaga. Here's another great adaptogen. Chugga is one of these really anti-inflammatory, antioxidant-rich mushrooms. It tastes delicious. So even just the flavor of it has some vanillic acids in it. So it has this wonderful flavor. And I would say that flavor alone is helpful in supporting mood, and just like making us feel better when we drink chaga tea. I'm a big fan of Chugga tea. I haven't drank as much this year. I realize now that I'm saying that. Every year I usually have a pot of Chugga tea on the stove, but I've drank less this year than normal. Not sure why. but it's one of my favorites. It makes great bases for elixirs. So the Chugga tea cut is just an awesome elixir base, or even our Chugga powder, you can just put it into hot water and make a nice tea with it. So anyway, this one has those oxidative stress and anti-inflammatory effects, like I mentioned. It's got something called SOD, which is superoxide dismutase. That is a free radical scavenger that our major organ systems already produce and work with, but it helps to work with oxidative damage in the body. And this one has a real affinity to support the digestive system as well. And a big part of that is that it helps modulate and combat fatigue through really supporting blood sugars and having an anti-cholesterol kind of effect, just this regulating effect in the cardiovascular system and in the blood sugars, but also regulating effect in the microbiome. So great mushroom, really worth looking at. It says here, like, packed with over 200 phytonutrients. There are crazy compounds in here. We've got lots of DNA protective compounds, things like germanium in there. There's a little bit of coenzyme Q10 in there. There's all kinds of quercetin and, like I said, the SOD. There's all different types of terpenes and betulinic acids, which are antioxidants, lots of flavonoids, lots of antiviral compounds. So here's just a powerhouse of a mushroom. It's also been heavily studied and used for cancer. This is not as much, I guess, as turkey tail would be used for cancer, but chaga is one of those ones that, in Russia, they have a medicine called bifungin that is an anti-cancer medicine. But really, when we're looking at mind and mood and kind of bringing it back to our central focus tonight, the main reason to work with chaga is it's supporting our blood sugar regularity and just regularity in the body in general. It has those anti-inflammatory effects and reduces oxidative stress, which can have a really big impact on our mood and our mind. It has, when you mix it with fat, like a coconut oil or an MCT oil, that free radical antioxidant effect really does a good job of crossing the blood-brain barrier and really supporting our neurobiology as well. So yeah, chaga is just a really good one. All right, let's look at some nootropics. So those are some adaptogens. And again, it's not an exhaustive list of adaptogens. I'm a huge fan of rhodiola, huge fan of a number of other adaptogens that we could put in there. So just a really high level list of 4 different ones, but to keep it on track, we're gonna park it there for today. Just know that a lot of those adaptogens can mix well with each other, right? We can mix them with like Schizandra and holy basil, and Shilajit could kind of be in that category, and pine pollen might be sort of getting close there, but there's a lot of these tonic herbs out of white peony bark. There's just a ton, but I'm going to stop at that. We're going to talk about nootropics, and remember that the nootropics are really those ones that enhance our cognitive function, that give us better mental clarity, that can be used to create better flow states. And sort of the buzz these days has been psychoactive mushrooms in a microdose as a nootropic kind of flow state thing. We're not going to talk about that other than I just mentioned it, but a lot of nootropics are being paired with those microdosing for that quality. I'm a big fan of really starting with your herbs and working there. Not that I don't think that's a good thing for some people. It has shown huge benefits, but really herbs like gotu kola, have been used to enhance the third eye. This is classically known to enhance our intuitive connection, having this kind of psychic support to really help us be more in connection. And this is out of Ayurvedic, right? So you do have that desire to have the kind of enhancing the third eye as a big part of their culture to support that. And gotu kola is one of these great cognitive herbs. It's been studied really, really well. I like gotu kola partly for its ability to support anxiety and memory and ADD. I mean, that's something, or ADHD is something that I've worked with my whole life. And as much as it helps me be really brilliant, it's really worth working with herbal medicine to support these things, right? In that way. Okay. And then other things to look at are herbal nervine quality that it has. It's an adaptogen and a nootropic. So really, Gotu Kola fits into all of these categories. But we're focusing more on the nootropic sides of it because that's where we're getting this enhanced circulation, supporting the like actual brain blood flow. So blood brain flow. So better things with, and just brain or blood flow throughout the body, but specifically focusing with the center of gravity on the brain. And it's one that can really help us deal with nerve injuries. I like to pair Gotu Kola with other herbs. In this case, we've got it paired in our clarity with things like linden flowers, with a bunch of other great herbs that have some antioxidant and circulatory support, and that can be really useful that way. Ginkgo and Gotu Kola has been a classic combination. This tea has both ginkgo and Gotu Kola in it. But this is a really tasty one. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, here's a great herb that you can work with as a tincture, but I find tea is kind of the best way that I like to work with Gotu Kola, just because it's really nice tasting, and it's one that works well into blends. So great for increasing our circulatory effect. And like I mentioned, having that kind of more intuitive connection in the brain. So no, I'm not going to say it's going to make you psychic, but this is classically in the literature, it's to enhance the third eye and get more mental clarity. Okay. And with that, just so you know, with any of these nootropics or ones that are supporting and nourishing the brain, typically because we have a lot of nervous tissue in the heart and in the gut, we will see that they have an effect on that. So Gotu Kola is one that's a circulatory stimulant for the digestive system as well. But here we go. We have matcha. We're on that one now. This has often been said matcha is good for focus and clarity, and to really have better focus, better clarity, super antioxidant rich, right? Matcha is the spring tips of the green tea plant. So the very first spring tips, and the way a ceremonial matcha is produced, usually it's ground like right before shipping, or if possible, kept in leaves and ground before use. Now in the Western world, we don't really have that quality or that ability, but we do at Harmonic Arts have the ability to order matcha and order on the 15th of every month, and they grind it before they ship it to us. So it can be really, really fresh. And that's the best way we can get our matcha, is just as fresh as possible. We've crafted up a matcha mind. And the reason why you want it as fresh as possible is because of the antioxidant potential that's in there and the flavor and all that. In the matcha mind, matcha is paired with some supportive herbs. Some of them do help support the life of the matcha, so it stays in good quality for longer, but also it's more to support the clarity and focus kind of nootropic quality of the matcha. So we have things like lion's mane in there. But one of the things that I love about matcha is that like it is slightly stimulating. So it has a little bit of caffeine, but it's more high in L-theanine than caffeine is. And so it has this like really good feel-good mood and hormone enhancer, right? It works with serotonin and GABA and dopamine. So we see that it can help us actually support without like making us caffeinated and too alert that we can't go to sleep. It can support the serotonin, but also work with the GABA, so we do sleep well. And then having this kind of dopamine bonding connection, this feel-good connection that matcha can give us, can be a really good nootropic delivery system for better workflow, for better cognitive function. So this is one that I would recommend you look at for replacing coffee with, especially if you're one of those people who does 2 coffees a day. Have a second coffee as a matcha instead of a coffee. Maybe if you really need the stimulation, make a matcha mind, but pair that with a yerba mate tea if you really want that a little higher caffeine drive, right? So matcha being not as caffeinated and more antioxidant has a great ability to really support the brain in that sense. And because of that, it combats depression and it makes us feel a little more alert and just improves our cognitive function. So yeah, you all know a little bit about matcha, or most of you have probably had matcha plenty of times. It's become very popular over the years, and that's just because it's pretty awesome. It's a great alternative to coffee and even to tea. Has just a really good feeling to it and can really support our cognitive health. All right. This one you probably are aware of as well. Lion's mane has become the most popular mushroom in North America, which is an impressive feat. It's known as the smart shroom, right? Because it helps to support creativity and memory. Really, what it does, or one of the main things that's been discovered, is it stimulates new nerve growth factors in the brain and the body. This is something that we didn't really know we could do. We didn't actually realize the body could regrow nerve cells. A lot of, like when I was a kid, I was told, you know, you trim off nerve cells as a kid and then you stay that way. And the reality is we have loads of studies now showing, especially for degenerative nerve disease, things like dementia and Alzheimer's, things like Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis, that lion's mane can be a really supportive mushroom to help people when they're in these situations. It may not, and it definitely won't, or I haven't seen anybody say, wow, this cured these things, but it can help slow them and repair the nerves and really help increase our cognitive awareness. So this one's, again, been really popular. Part of that is because it does support memory and all of these kind of like antidepressant, anti-anxiety qualities. It's got that really, it's known as a happy mushroom. It does, like I've eaten, I'll say tablespoons of lion's mane, and it gives you a pretty euphoric, happy feeling, right? And so it's definitely one that I've used directly with many different people to support if they have overwhelm and anxiety, but also a little mild depression and or brain fog. So if you're one of these, and that means that it stems right into the ADHD, is that if you have brain fog, yeah, for sure. But if you have inability to focus for whatever reason, doesn't have to be a labeling of something. If you're slightly neurodivergent and you don't focus well, lion's mane might be just that edge you really need to support you. Although I will say in those cases, I'm a big fan of pairing lion's mane with reishi, because reishi is more grounding, and not to expect everything out of lion's mane. And the second thing I'll say about it is you actually need quite a bit. Most people chronically underdose with lion's mane. A lot of the products out there on the market are 1-to-1 extracts, and they say take 1 to 2 capsules daily. That is not anywhere near enough lion's mane. You literally need one of these whole mushrooms minimum daily. So what we do is we produce a 7-to-1 extract, which makes it far more concentrated. And then you can get away with taking like a gram or so of that daily to have cognitive function. But when you look at the studies, people are taking 6 grams a day to see improvement in memory and improvement in neurodegenerative diseases. So they're taking big volumes, hence why the lion's mane we work with is the 7-to-1 extract. Actually, all of our mushroom powders are extracts because you can take far less of them to be able to get far more. So like a 1/4 teaspoon is awesome. Although I will say it's very safe, and like as a party herb, I've taken a tablespoon and then gone out and had a great time, and not to be euphoric and altered state, but just enhancing some like anti-anxiety and just really making me feel good. So far better than drinking in my mind. Have a tablespoon of lion's mane. Let's go. No, just kidding. But the reality is this is just one of those really great nerve supportive mushrooms. And the caveat is people have, like, we've got lots of anecdotal evidence of it being useful and working, but all the people I've seen that had really outstanding effects have been taking bigger doses. So it's easily underdosed in this case, but it's very safe to take small or large doses of this mushroom. So it sometimes becomes it's cost prohibitive to take big doses of expensive supplements, right? So lion's mane is not that expensive considering the amount of benefits you get for it. But my recommendation is half a teaspoon instead of a 1/4 teaspoon, maybe yeah, all the way up to yeah, that'd be my recommendation. Anyway, okay. We put it in our Matcha mind. I highly recommend pairing this with lots of elixirs, especially if you're looking for like a flow state, mid-afternoon brain fog elixir. Lion's Mane's got to be in there. Okay, let's talk about nervines. Nervines are a great category. Wait, I'll go back to nervines before I talk about St. John's wort. Just to be clear, nervines are those herbs that work with the nervous system. They aren't just for the mind. They work with peripheral nerves, digestive nerves, heart nerves, but a lot of them have anti-anxiety qualities. A lot of them have calming down overwhelm qualities. Typically, people who are in their head a lot actually have a lot more anxiety than they may lead on to, and really could use some nervines. I've just met so many people that do so well when taking a couple of nervines. And so we're not going to go into all the nervines. There are some great ones that we're not going to talk about that I love, like I'll just mention them now. Milky Oats is one of my favorites. Skullcap, one of my favorites. Passion Flower, one of my favorites. We have some of those in our products, but we're going to really focus on three here that are very well known and can be supportive for depression, mind, and mood. And that is, first off, St. John's wort. St. John's wort is kind of the most well-established, well-researched antidepressant herbal nervine. So really working more with like SAD, seasonal affective disorder, and for mild and moderate depression. But there's been lots of studies on St. John's wort. And even, you know, like I pick this flower, we grow this flower in our on our land. And every time I pick it, I feel happy. Like it's just such a, I mean, maybe I just like being around flowers, but St. John's wort, even just picking it makes me feel really like in a good mood. Taking it as a medicine, it works well. It works really well for me anyway. And my partner in particular, she's much more gets the winter blues. St. John's wort has been a huge one. This uplifted spirits, by the way, my wife's also a herbalist, Angela Willard. She's a great, great herbalist. She's got a master in seaweeds, has actually written a whole course at Wild Rose College on seaweeds, and just is a great, yeah, partner for me. She was one who really helped build out this uplifted spirits blend and helped formulate it with me, because it really was steering towards what she was seeing as these kind of winter blues, mild, moderate depression during this time of year. It's got things like a little seaweed in it to like invigorate the metabolism. It's got other herbs, and we'll talk about the herbs in there. But just getting back to St. John's wort, that is the chief of this formula. And really, it's one that can slowly boost the levels of serotonin and uplift the mood, right? You do need to take it regularly. It's not like for my depression I have today, like right now, oh, I'm feeling blues, take some St. John's wort. It might have a bit of an effect, but you're probably better to do some exercise if you're feeling sluggish today. St. John's wort is one that's going to help you over a period of time to kind of combat and boost those serotonin and uplift the mood. And a lot of people suffer from chronic low serotonin in their body. So just be aware that if you're one of these people who lives on adrenal glands, you're probably low in serotonin. If you're living on the high of different foods or stimulants or stimulating reality, maybe it's stimulating activities, then you might find that you're low in serotonin. And so St. John's wort just might be a great herb to really support you through those winter months. The other thing to think about with St. John's wort is that it's not just for the brain and for sadness. It's great antiviral and nervine for nerve damage. So I've used lots of St. John's wort. It's in our both our rescue healing salve and our trauma salve as a nervine for nerve damage, right? Exterior on the skin, although really as an antiviral and just dealing with the nervous system in general, this is a great herb to look to. So I like it in the winter. I think St. John's wort's a really healthy winter blues herb to be working with. It does have some counterindications with medications. I mentioned that at the beginning. Things like SSRIs, the serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and some blood cholesterol medicines. St. John's wort has been shown to like lessen their effect. That doesn't mean you can't take it with those. It means that you really should talk to a healthcare practitioner if you're on these kind of medications, just to really, and when I say you should talk to a healthcare practitioner, I'm saying you should do your own research and not just trust anyone you see online or anyone like even me as a herbalist who doesn't know your specific situation. Work with a practitioner that can really help you curve that. At the same time, I really believe you need to take your health into your own hands. And so there's lots of information online. If you want to learn more about the counterindications of something like St. John's wort, trust me, that information is so widely out there. It's almost harder to find the qualities of herbs that are legitimate than it is to find the counterindications. So, but yeah, look a little more into it. This one's been well studied. It does, I think part of the reason, and this is what I've sort of learned about St. John's wort and ginkgo, they're both two herbs that affect what's called cytochrome P450 in the liver, which means that it slows down the breakdown of other chemical compounds and can bind up that detoxification pathway, meaning that if you're taking pharmaceuticals, that can have an adverse effect on those pharmaceuticals because the pathway in the liver that breaks them down is being compromised slightly. So those are the things that I would suggest are part of the reason for that. But the reality is a lot of people have had huge benefits from working with this herb. And do your own research. You may find that this is one that can be, and there are definitely practitioners that are working with pulling people off of antidepressants and SSRI inhibitors onto things like St. John's wort. So they have been worked with together, but just, going from a mad kitchen witch perspective, do some research before you suggest that to anybody who's working with any of those kind of pharmaceutical medicines already. Okay. And that goes with herbs in general, although most of them are quite safe. There's not that many that are really having a negative effect on in relative dosage. And something like our uplifted spirits, which is this blend, because it has all these other herbs in it that are supportive for balancing that out, this would be far more safe to use than just high dose St. John's wort on its own, right? So often when we make herbal formulas, they do help balance out some of the potential adverse effects. So like St. John's wort binding to the cytochrome P450 pathway in the liver, very less of an issue when you have it in a blend with 5 other herbs. It actually becomes, they help move that and stimulate the liver in a different way. So anyway, things to think about. Let's talk about lemon balm. Melissa, I love this one. We grow lots of lemon balm in our house, and just like waving my hands over the lemon balm, it's like, it just feels so good. It's just like the most grounding, calming, relaxing, mood uplifting scent, that fresh lemon balm. So the essential oils in there are really what we're trying to capture. Hence why I like to work with lemon balm as a tincture. It is in our clarity. It does have a nice flavor to that, but those essential oils are quite volatile. So if you try to take the clarity and you brew it 3 to 4 times, you lose that lemony scent or the like lemonines and things from the lemon balm after the second brew or after the first brew, really. So I like to brew this one as an infusion versus a decoction. So I really capture in a teapot with a lid on some of those aromatherapy pieces to the lemon balm and to other herbs like that. Anyway, this one has been well known. You know what? I'll tell you just something interesting that's not even, will never be on these slides, but it's cool. Lemon balm was the primary herb used to create the alchemy stone by alchemists. It was one of those ones where and the alchemy stone would be to capture all the different body, spirit, mind of the herb to create this like alchemy stone you could put in and infuse into your tonics and infuse into that. There's a whole lot of research and literature out there, anecdotal, on creating alchemy stones. This is something my father did once, and he really shared it with me, his experience in working with lemon balm in doing that, and to really harness just the essential oils and all these other pieces. But part of that is because it has such defined pieces and it is really a spirit herb. These lemon scents in general are something that you should think about for winter blues. Even just take a lemon peel and smell it, like crush the lemon peel into your nose Mm. Uh, there's lots of other ones like lemon verbena, a great herb for supporting the mind and mood. It's another nervine. I love lemon verbena. The lemon balm in particular is what we're going to talk about today. And yeah, it's just got that, even lemon thyme, sorry, it's like all these like lemonine smelling plants that basically have this uplifting spirit. It's kind of that uplifting effect. It calms anxiety, brings us into the higher realms, makes us remember that we're connected to something bigger than ourselves. So really works as a bit of a yeah, cognitive support and focus support. Sometimes smelling that lemon can help us, yeah, just get back down to focus. It increases the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. That's pretty awesome, to really help support our neurotransmitter health and just really to ease mild to moderate depression, right? So like work with those kind of things. Very safe herb to work with for all ages. It's very supportive and nourishing for the digestive system and the microbiome health as well. So lemon balm is just an easy one, easy to grow, but a great herb to like add into your tea blends or put in a tincture and match in with one of these elixirs that you're crafting up for your mind and mood. Something you might want to put into your matcha mind, right? A little bit of lemon balm base. Okay, next herb we'll talk about is valerian. Valerian's a great herb. This is probably one of the most potent herbs in the nervine category. Some people, it can make them groggy when they take a lot of valerian. I've heard a few folks with a valerian hangover when they take big volumes. It's in our Feel Calm blend, but it's small enough in volume that it's not going to create what a valerian hangover might be for some folks, which really what a valerian hangover is more like. If you take big amounts of valerian at night, some people will wake up a little bit groggy still. The reality, though, is this one calms down the central nervous system. I've taken valerian at all times of the day myself, and I don't get like sleepy or like, ugh, like valerian's making me. It doesn't do that effect. It has a stimulative effect on the digestive tract, and sometimes this can be overly stimulating for people, depending on what that is. But the reality is it really relaxes the muscles. It relaxes the nervous system. It calms down central nervous system. It works really well for a lot of folks with stress, anxiety, insomnia. Yeah, I've seen this work so well for a number of people. Our Feel Calm is not really a sleep blend. It does have that effect when taking in large dosage. You could take it if you're one of these people who get anxiety and overwhelm and have that insomnia kind of monkey mind thing, then valerian would be really, really useful. And the Feel Calm tincture would probably be the best way to work with that. But I take the Feel Calm and valerian during the middle of the day myself because I find it to be really great with any kind of anxiety or any kind of tension that's coming up. Relaxes the muscles. So if you're somebody who, has like a nervous twitch or somebody who's just like, feeling like you need to calm down, valerian can be really great. With that, it means that it can be supportive for relaxing smooth muscles. So some women have used it during PMS symptoms for like really relaxing the uterus to help with the transition of the egg through the kind of really cramping time of the month. And so that can be another way to use it. And really, it's one of these strong, vital herbs in the Compositae family with echinacea and yarrow, and just and sunflowers and all those kind of herbs, calendula, really produces some great chemistry. I like to pair it with other nervines, and I've mentioned here skullcap and passion flower. I consider those to be the salt and pepper of the nervines. I put them in as many different things as I can. They work with just kind of calming down the body. Skullcap being one of the ones that I really love and resonate with, but passion flower having just a great effect too, both in anxiety and supporting sleep and in supporting nervousness and insomnia and all these kind of stress related pieces that the nervous system's affecting. So those are both in the Feel Calm blend, making this one of those great blends for people who really want to enhance their mind and mood. Okay, we made it through the 10 herbs. I'm gonna just kind of sort of take a quick pivot shift here to like remembering that, one of the ways in which we attempt to support you at Harmonic Arts is to be a medicine bridge. We feel like you have the capacity to really craft your own health path, and we want to support you by giving you products that can help with that. So we work with these mushrooms, these elixirs, these different teas, these tinctures. All of these can be used to craft up that elixir, that nourishing drink, or they can be taken on their own and taken apart, made into an evening ritual. Again, with mental health, ritual is so important with our mind and mood. Thinking of things like Artisan Teas, have a couple of teas on hand, drink an evening tea every night. Have a nice tea to wind down. I have a lot of tinctures in my house because, when I need them, I need them. And then, like when I start to get sick, you bet I got the antiviral tincture right there, ready to go. The cold defense, all these different tinctures. When I'm feeling anxious, I've got a bottle of Feel Calm ready to go. When I'm feeling the blues, the uplifted spirits is there. So when I have indigestion, I've got our herbal bitters around. So highly recommend having tinctures on hand for those acute situations, and also for taking them more regularly if you're one of those people that need that. And yeah, mushrooms, you've heard me speak about mushrooms, and if you haven't, remember to check out harmonicartslive.com for some of our other webinars. There's loads there. And then really just kind of the two elixirs that we were really focusing on tonight for the elixirs is the Matcha Mind and the 5 mushroom drinking chocolate. The 5 mushroom drinking chocolate having all 5 of the top mushrooms, and the Matcha Mind having lion's mane in it, but also being really supported with herbs like mucuna purines, which are high in dopamine and really supportive for the nervous system. Green tea pollen, which is massively potent in antioxidant chemistry and adding more flavonoids and more of these kind of pollen-based amino acid groups for building better neurotransmitters. And moringa, which is the miracle tree that really supports digestion, calms down the mind, helps healthy skin, so much more. So the Matcha Mind is like an upgraded matcha. So these are the two ones that we kind of focused on tonight to use to maybe support in a base of an elixir crafting that you might want to work with. The 2 teas we talked about mostly are the Adapt tea and the Clarity. And Clarity has that lemon balm, but it also has the lemon verbena in it. And it's got, what does it say the lemon balm in there anymore? Oh, there you go. It's got the lemon verbena, the ginkgo, gotu kola, right? The gotu kola was the one. Linden leaf is a huge favorite of mine. It's very good for the digestive tract, but it's also just kind of calming down and supporting the mindscape too. I found I took linden when I was in Guatemala. I had major altitude sickness because we went from the ocean to the high mountains, and we couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And there they call linden tilia, and the local herb shop was like, "Yeah, take the tilia. It really helps to get the better circulation, to help with breathing, and to work with altitude sickness." And yeah, sure enough, the linden was amazing for that for me. Holy basil is another great herb that I just love, love, love. It helps to create better mental clarity, but it's also an adaptogen that works with the stress and cortisol and adrenal balancing. And then rhyobis, we put in as the part of the base here, because the rhyobis in this tea, one, it tastes good and it's very antioxidant rich, which helps us with clarity. And rosemary, you may or may not know this, but is one of the better nootropics for mental focus and for mood and antidepressants. So have a little whiff of rosemary, cook with rosemary. We put rosemary into both uplifted spirits and clarity because they has such a great effect in that realm. Yeah, the uplifted spirits has the lemon balm and the skullcap and the passion flower and the rosemary, or no, not the passion flower, the skullcap and the bladderwrack. Something that's neat about uplifted spirits and the bladderwrack is that bladderwrack really works as a metabolism booster to support the thyroid, and ashwagandha being that strong capacity to really support energy if we're feeling blues. Ashwagandha is a real good adaptogen, and a Luthro is obviously in there too as another adaptogen to really support that blend. All of these blends are crafted by herbalists when we use the energetics of herbs to really help work with creating a formula that can really support that specific center of gravity of health. This is one of the secret sauces of Harmonic Arts, and one of the things that makes us maybe different from a lot of other herb companies and supplement companies is that we use this stuff ourselves first off, and we're trained in formulation to really support the body through the energetics of how these herbs will pair well with each other. And that means that we've created some really effective formulas here that we get lots of people commenting on how well they work. So Uplifted Spirits being a great one like that. From the adaptogen side, our Adapt Tea is awesome. It's got a bit of Schizandra berry in there. So you got this nice like sour berry punch that has like just all this packed with flavor. Faux tea is one of my favorite herbs. We didn't talk about it tonight, but it's He Wu, or Mr. He's black shiny hair in Chinese. And it's really this guy, Mr. He. He's 150 years old. He has this beautiful head of black shiny hair, no gray hair to be seen. He's got really strong libido and very active, we'll say. The concept being that this root helps support our adrenals and our overall vitality as we age. Another one that's in there is rhodiola, and that's kind of the Viking adrenal supportive herb. It has been documented that rhodiola was one of the herbs that Vikings would use before battle as like a tonic to really give them more adrenal firing, more cortisol, better ability to handle stress and fight or flight. So it is that Siberian Viking herb. Luthro being another Siberian herb, but grows throughout Asia and throughout Mongolia and all those areas. And we mentioned that. Ashwagandha we talked about. So yeah, this one's just a great blend. Oh, it's got the sarsaparilla in. I kind of briefly mentioned that being a really nice adrenal supportive herb too. It's got that root beer flavor, sarsaparilla does. So it adds a nice balance to the Schizandra and to the holy basil and to the faux tea in this blend. Last one I'll talk about here is Feel Calm. That is one of my favorite tinctures. I got to admit, I love it. I didn't think I needed it at first, but then somebody pointed out that, yeah, maybe you have some anxiety. I'm like, I'm not anxious, but I realized it's a different type of anxiety. It's not like the anxiety some people get, which is really social anxiety or awkwardness or something. For me, it's like overthinking and over chewing on something. And so this really just helped calm that down. I really love the Feel Calm for that. And so it's got a herb called Motherwort in there, which helps to kind of bring us into our heart, into kind of a center of gravity of the lungs and heart, to kind of bring us to our center. And hops, which calms down the nervous system as well. Part of the reason people drink a beer at the end of the day, or some folks do, is it actually, as much as people maybe want the alcohol to relax them, the hops really calms the nervous system down. I've done a great video on YouTube on hops. You can check that out. We've also done a video on valerian and St. John's wort and a bunch of these other herbs too. All right. Thank you, my friends. I'm really happy to have had you along this journey to talk about some of these. Hopefully the questions you've asked, Amanda has really gotten in there and helped support you with answers. I can take a couple of questions. She's going to maybe jump on and support with our question and answering now. And I just want to say, wait, I'm going to go back one slide. There's all these